Hey there. Today we're going to go over how to change the brakes and rotors, the front brakes and rotors on a Jeep Renegade. I have a 2016, so this should be the same for 2015 to 2018. I'm going to go over all the parts and tools you're going to need, and then we'll jump right in. I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I am not using any power tools, so these are basically like the cheapest shop you can create. That's what I'm working with. So if I can do this, so can you. So yeah. So what we got here is this is actually the spare tire kit, the jack that comes with the Jeep. So I've already used it, so it's already out right here. So this is the scissor jack that we're going to be using, and we use this to get the tires off and to crank the jack up. Specifically for my tires, I have aftermarket tires, so I have a wheel lock on them, so I need this special bit. You probably don't need that unless you've had your tires changed or your wheels changed. Okay, so then for the rest of the parts we got, or for the tools, I guess, prep, we have like an oil drain pan, and we're going to need several cans of brake cleaner. There are a couple different brands out there. I can put a link to the ones I bought, but there's lots of different options. By the way, all of these, besides the kit that comes with the car, I'll put links to so you can have an idea of what we're working with. Moving on down, we have 2 jack stands here that we're going to use just to keep the car secure while we're working under it. Also for security, we have tire chocks. So these go around the tire, the back tires. So I have 4 of these for the back tires to make sure the Jeep's not going to move while I have one of the wheels hoisted up. I have a crap ton of zip ties, but we're going to use a zip tie. You can use rope or something else as well, but we have to tie the caliper up out of the way while we're working on it. So, oops, I chose zip ties, and because of that, I just needed something to cut the zip ties, so I have that for later. Always recommend, basically, when you're doing any work, to have a spare empty cup or something to put all your nuts and bolts, so we're going to be using that. I have a little bit of blue Loctite that we'll use at the end as well. I have a 4-inch C-clamp. You can probably use a 6-inch, but a 3-inch is too small. I already tried. So at least a 4-inch. And then specifically from my wrench sets, we're going to be using a 5mm right here. This is an Allen key, so I'm sure you don't have to use a wrench set for the Allen key, but you will need a 5mm. We're going to need a 14mm socket. An extension is nice. And then we're going to need an E20 socket. This one's kind of different looking, but I would recommend getting this set. I think this set was like 10 or 12 bucks or something. I'll have a link. But Jeep has a lot of Torx bits and like e-Torx stuff, so I've just found it useful just to buy a set so we don't need to look for them in the future. You'll need hopefully a heavy hammer. I actually did the first wheel with a regular hammer, and it was quite a lot of work, so I went out and bought this bad boy for $7. This is a 2-pound hammer. Hopefully that's helpful. Either like a long screwdriver or something to help pry off the router. This is a chisel actually, but seemed to get the job done. And then I have 2 breaker bars here. This is a 12-inch that I bought off Amazon, and then a 17-inch I got at Harbor Freight. I bought the 12-inch first, and I could not break it loose, so I had to go buy the 17-inch. 17-inch is a bit tight in the wheel well, so maybe a 15-inch might be perfect, but these do work. And then a couple more things, some latex gloves, some regular work gloves, got some eyewear, a couple different lights, it can be dark working under there, and an old rag. And then finally, you need to buy brake pads and calipers. So I went with Power Stop. So these are the brake pads we're going to be using, and here's the fresh clean router. Yeah. So that's the only part you need to buy. The rest is tools. And yeah, we're going to jump right into it. Okay, like I mentioned, bought these tire chocks. So we want to make sure we have these set on our rear tires, front and back. You see they still have the tags on them. There's one on the back and another one up front here. So tire chocks, step number 1. Okay, before we lift the car up, we want to at least break the bolts. So there's 5 of them, so we got to get them at least started so that when we lift the car up we can actually get them off. So I'm just going to be using the kit that came with the car and my lock socket. Okay, so now we're gonna jack the Jeep up. There are 2 spots, one on each side of the car, that are designated to do this, to use the scissor jack on. I'll actually post a link to the manual, which shows you the pictures, which is really nice. But I'm going to show you right now on the car where it is. So we're up near the front door, and we go all the way down here, and you'll see this arrow right here, and that's showing you where the jack is supposed to go. The arrow's right here. So this is the seam that we're actually lifting it up on. So the jack itself has like a skinny side and a fat side. That skinny side goes out towards the outside of the car. So that's gonna go right like that. Then we're just gonna jack it up on there. When you go to jack it up, you can use the jack that comes with it, the wrench that comes with it, but if you have a socket set and a 17 millimeter, like this setup, it's a little bit faster. Okay, we get the car lifted off the ground. So now we're gonna go ahead and pop out our bolts. I'm gonna grab my empty cup. So I get that. Okay, so this is the best view I think I can give you guys. But this is the back of the caliper right here. So we want to loosen and take off this bolt, this one, and this one. So we're gonna start, these are what I was telling you about that E20 is used for. That's this guy is gonna go on here. So here, these guys, we're gonna do the 2 E20 bits first, and I'm gonna try and break it off with my 12-inch breaker bar, but might need to use the 17. So these can get kind of stuck on there pretty good, so just have some patience. Okay, got that one. Whew. There we go. Whew. All right. Such a pain. So you might need a 17-inch. I don't know. Mine are really on there. And we can go ahead, keep working these. Okay, before I finish those, oops, sorry, I'm gonna loosen these. So that's the 14 millimeter that we were talking about. So again, I'm gonna use the breaker bar. There we go, that's not nearly as hard. There we go. Got those started. Okay, so now we're gonna finish these guys, and this is a good point, a good time to make sure you have your rope or your zip ties handy, because we're about to use them as soon as we get rolling here. There's one. That's what it looks like. All right. It's about to come off, so that's that. And now this is where you need a pry bar, like a big screwdriver, or like I said, I'm gonna use this chisel and just work your way in there until we can pry this guy off. There we go. I'm just gonna set it right here, and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so now that we got it just resting here, we're gonna go ahead and finish taking out those 2 14 millimeters, which we already started. Let's see here, actually. There's one. Okay, so that's these bad boys. Put those aside in our little handy cup. Now we can take the actual caliper out. And I'm gonna put that aside. And this is where I'm gonna use a zip tie. Be careful of your brake line there. I got my zip tie. This is a little tricky to do with one person. if you have a helper, this might be a good time to ask for your helper's help. There we go. Okay, so that's just up and out of the way. Okay, so this is where we need our 5mm Allen key. I have a little one as a wrench, which is handy. But if you don't, I'm sure you have one lying around for some other do-it-yourself project. Very common. Did I seriously strip it? Oh. Okay, so ran into a bit of difficulty yesterday. The little set screw that holds the rotor on was like seized up, so when I went to take it off, I stripped the screw. So I spent the last like half a day trying to get it off, and finally just did. So this is what my screw looks like. It's just this little tiny thing, but I had to drill it out to get it off. This is what the set screw is supposed to look like, just a 5mm Allen wrench key. Had to go get a new one. And it just goes in this hole right here just to hold the rotor in place. So once you get that off, which hopefully for you it should be very easy, just use a 5mm Allen wrench, then we're gonna take the router off, and I think we're going to need, where did I put it? This is where a nice heavy hammer comes in to play, because we're gonna pound it off, because we're gonna throw these rotors out, so we don't care if we destroy them, and I am going to guess that they're gonna be on there pretty well. So I'll go show you how to do that. We're just gonna go behind here, hit it from the back over here, spin it, hit it from the back, keep doing that until it comes off. This is where I would recommend the safety glasses for sure. All right, just want to show you what the old rotor looked like, and there's all this gunk and shit in here, and that's why it's on there so tight. Look at this, looks pretty filthy. So I'm gonna spray this down with some of our brake clean, wipe it off, try and get it to look a little nicer. Grab some of my brake clean, and I got a rag, and I got my drain pan, oil pan to put underneath here. So just gonna try and clean this off a little bit. Okay, that looks a lot better. So after we've cleaned this guy off, we can go grab our fresh new rotor, and I'm gonna take it out of the packaging, and I'm just gonna prop it up right here, and we are going to spray it with brake cleaner to get it all nice and clean. Okay, here's the front. So this is where you want to be generous with the brake clean. It comes with a film on it to help the shelf life. So that's why we have to clean it all off when you get it, both sides, front and back. Also, this stuff is really strong, so yeah, try not to breathe it in too much. I don't know if you can see this, but the rotors we got are labeled. So this is front driver's side. That's the side we're on right now. I'll probably take the sticker off once I spray this brake clean on a little bit more. I've sprayed off the rotor a couple times with the brake clean, so I'm pretty confident that it's pretty clean. I switched to some latex gloves from my work gloves because I wanted to be able to manipulate it. I'm gonna put the new set screw back in, so we'll have the rotor back in place, and then we'll jump over to the brake pads. So you line it up. What you're looking for, let me show you, is you have your regular lug nut bolts holes here, and then you're gonna have one somewhere on this plate in between them that's smaller. So you line that up with one of these smaller holes. So we're gonna do that right here. Okay. Now we'll move on to the brake pads. So this is our caliper that we pulled out with our existing brake pads, our old brake pads. And then right here, I have our new brake pads. So again, these are power stop. All right, this is what we got. So these are the anti-vibration clips and the actual brake pads. These are different. One of them has a metal tab, so we're gonna take note of where that goes when we pull the old ones out. So yeah, let's go and do that. I'm gonna take out the 2 old brake pads. It also comes with a little bit of grease, brake grease. So okay, let's take these out. Just work them out. There's one. So keep note of which side each brake pad goes on. And I have gloves handy because I'm going to change my gloves too. So there's one. This is the side with that clip. So that's what the brake pad looks like. It's actually not terrible, but this was from my other side. And here you can see it's already worn down to the metal, so it was screeching. So it's super thin. We also have to take out the old shims. So these just pop off, and you just have to work them off the top. There's one. Pop those off. There's the other. We're gonna take these bolts out and clean them and re-grease them. So we wanna have the grease nearby, extra pair of gloves, some paper towel, and we'll go ahead and take these out one at a time. So make note of where each one goes because they are slightly different. So you can just peel back this rubber boot and this screw pops out. So we want this to move and it's getting kind of gunky, so that's why we're gonna clean it. So there's the one. And move this out of the way. Got our drain pan, we got some of that, so we're gonna spray these off and clean them first, and then we're gonna reapply the grease. If you don't do this, you can get premature brake wear because the caliper is supposed to back off when you don't have the brakes on there, and if it's sticky, then this will stay in and your brakes will be rubbing even when you're not trying to use them. So there's that one. And then we're gonna put these aside, and now we're gonna look at the actual caliper, and we can clean that rubber boot as well. So in here, we're gonna try and get the gunk out of here, clean it, and then grease it up again. And you wanna make sure, if you sprayed that brake clean in there, that you drained it all out. So I don't think there's really any in there, but you want to make sure it comes out and dries out. Now we want this one goes on that side, the rubber boot, or the rubber notch. So we're gonna grease it up. Got some grease on there. I can go ahead and work that back in. Nice. There we go. Now it's moving okay. Good. Do the other side. Or the anti-vibration clips. That's what we're missing. So we put these in first on the bottom. They clip in, and then the top. There you go. So you get that in like that. Do the other side. Okay, these are both in there. Now we can slide the new brake pads in, like so. Okay, there's one. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for the next step, we want to put the brake pads back on the caliper, but we're going to have to compress the caliper piston to get out of the way. So what you're going to want to do is go in your Jeep and pop the trunk, the latch under here, and pop the hood. There we go. One sec. And back here we have, this is where the brake fluid is. So we're gonna take this cap off. Don't worry, we will put it back on, but we're gonna take it off so that when we're trying to compress the piston, we don't have as much pressure and it makes it easier. So do that, and then we'll jump down to the wheel. Okay, so now we're back down by the wheel. A couple of things that you're gonna want to have really close by. We have our caliper assembly, like our brake pads with the assembly put together. We have our bolts, our 14mm bolts that we're gonna need, that we took out when we put the caliper together. And we're gonna need, I have some clippers because I'm gonna get the zip tie off, and then I have my wrenches and wrench set nearby. And we will need a C-clamp. I'm using a 4-inch one, and I'm going to try and use the old brake pad that we took off. This is the slightly thicker one. We'll see if it fits. If not, I have this thinner one that I know fits. So we're gonna take this off. We already took the cap off, the brake fluid. So this is where we're gonna compress the piston. But once you take this off, you can't really move because you just have this tiny little hose, brake hose. So we're just working in this space. That's why you wanna have all your tools nice and close nearby. So let's go ahead and get rid of this guy. So yeah, be careful not to pinch the hose back here. Just be wary of that. So we're gonna put it upside down for right now. And this is the piston that we're going to compress. So let's see. I'll wind my C-clamp open. And we're gonna take the brake pad that we just took off, right here. Do the ceramic side towards the piston. And yeah, looks like we're gonna fit. So we got that there, and now slowly we're just gonna wind and compress the piston. Okay, so let me see if I can show you that caliper. That piston's all the way in there. So now we'll take this out and take this off. There we go. So now we can put our assembly back in. So it goes this way. There we go, slides in. And now we're gonna take our 14mm bolts, the little ones, looks like this, that we took out earlier. And we're going to hand screw those back in. All right. So now that we got those hand tight, we're gonna line back up the whole caliper. Okay, great. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit better from that side. So I already started the top E20 right here. And tighten it up a little bit more, and then the bottom one. Actually, one thing about these that you might want to use is a little bit of blue Loctite. So I'm actually gonna throw some of that on here. You can use the red Loctite, but man, it makes it hard to get off. So I like the blue. Just put a little bit. There we go. And line these back up. There we go. Nice. Okay, so then I'll do the same with this guy. All right, so we're gonna tighten these down. There we go. Okay, good. Okay, now we need to still tighten up these two. These are the 14mm. There we go. Okay, and again, I'm gonna tighten these guys down. With my breaker bar. And they're on there pretty tight, but not hopefully too tight. Sweet. So now we have, let's see here, our brand new, nice new routers, new brake pads in there. Sweet. So what we want to do is go ahead and put that cap back on. So I'm going to do that right now. Put this back on. Okay, so the brake's pretty much done. Now we're going to go ahead and put the tire back on. So we'll need our lug nuts. And I'm going to use a wrench to get started. So if you know how to do this, we're basically done now with the brakes. Just going to put the tire on. Then you have to be sure to pump the brakes because we let the pressure out of the line. So your brake pedal is going to go all the way to the floor. I'll show you how to do that after this, but if you don't want to watch, that's all you need to do. And then go out and give it a couple test drives. So make sure you get that in there. So we're going to go ahead and put this back on. Get a lot closer. There we go. So we have to line up the lug nut holes with the lug nut holes on the rotor. This part's a little tricky. If you have an assistant, they can help you hold the tire up a little bit. My assistant is going to be my shoes. So let's see. Sweet. Okay, so we have our wheel tightened up, and we're gonna get our jack out of the way. Go. Now we can hop in the car and pump the brakes. Let's see. Notice it goes all the way to the floor. There we go. Sweet. All right, cool. Now I'm gonna take it for a drive, give a couple stop and starts, make sure everything feels good. And that's how you change your brake rotors and pads. Thanks.